everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra, because we are on a Wednesday. Oh my goodness me, the middle of the working week already. Been a brilliant day today. We've had a two reg walk, which was absolutely fabulous. Goodness me, there's something on light in here. And yeah, we had a 2 reg walk today and other stuff. I did a bit of work, and I'm just trying to think what else. No, we'll come to it. We'll come to the 2 reg walk at half time. What are we reading at the moment? We are still reading Scottish Ghost, which is cracking. Absolutely brilliant book. What are we drinking tonight? More importantly, well, we are drinking Pencil Pusher Session IPA, 4%. Out of Office. What does it say? Doesn't say anything, just says ingredients include water, barley, hops. The hops are Aurora, Simcoe, and Sentinel with a C. Wheat and yeast, allergens including gluten shown in bold. Brewed and canned for Out of Office Brewing in the EU, imported to the UK by Beer 52. See base for best before. No, I think we're all right. So it doesn't say what it tastes of. Not a Robbie sausage, but we're just pouring it out in the magnificent Rush beer glass, which we mention every time on the show. This appears to be a slightly frothy pale ale. So there we go, a slightly frothy pale ale. Like I say, in the magnificent Rush beer glass, courtesy of viewers Kirsten and Steve in the United States. What are we washing it down with? Brand new bottle of the Western Gold Honey, which is my favourite bump these days. So here we go. Oh, lovely stuff. I'm not a big fan of kind of Tennessee whiskey or American whiskey, but I got to say, this stuff is girt lush. So, enough of the alcohol nonsense. Let's crack on mit the ghost stories. Bedleigh Castle. Bedleigh Castle stands close to Glasgow at Christon. It was first built in the 12th century as a palace for the bishops of Glasgow. The castle appears to have avoided notoriety until one day around the year 1350, which is 10 minutes to 2, one Bishop Cameron had the misfortune to be found dead, floating face down in the waters of a nearby loch. The bishop, it would seem, had not gone willingly into the afterlife, for after his death he continued to appear in the castle in ghostly form. The appearances of Bishop Cameron and the sounds that he made caused considerable torment to the inhabitants of the castle in the centuries to come. So much so that an exorcism was reported to have been attempted towards the end of the 19th century. It was unsuccessful. In the 1970s, Castle Bedleigh became home to an antique dealer and his family, and they claim both to have seen the large figure of the bishop appearing before them and to have heard him pacing restlessly about in neighbouring rooms. Shall I have beer, Derps? Yeah, I think I'll have a beer. I'll swig of the old beer. So, slange me for everybody. Oh, Braemar Castle. Braemar Castle is still used as a residence by the Farquharson family, who have been in possession of the castle since shortly after it was built in the first half of the 17th century. The female ghost that haunts Braemar is thought to be a particularly tragic figure who lost her life through a simple misunderstanding. It is said that over 200 years ago, a young couple came to the castle to spend their wedding night. In those days, of course, respectable young ladies were chaste and remained virgins until their wedding day. Many girls were left in a state of almost total ignorance when it came to sex. The wedding night, therefore, was likely to be approached with quite considerable apprehension, even fear, on the part of the bride. What would be expected of her? Would she make a good wife? The story goes that the young bride at Braemar woke early in. The story goes that the young bride at Braemar woke quite early on the morning after her wedding to find that she was alone in the bed. She got up and searched the apartment surrounding the bedroom, but could find no sign of her new husband. She became very distressed when she could not find him, and at once jumped to the conclusion that, having found her to be an unsatisfactory bedmate the night before, her husband had left her. Overcome with shame and confusion, the distraught young woman flung herself to her death from the window of the bridal room. The poor girl had been sadly mistaken. Her new husband had not left her, but had instead gone out hunting at crack of dawn while she was still sleeping. When the bridegroom returned from his hunting trip and rode back into the castle courtyard, he was greeted with the terrible news that his beautiful young bride was dead. How he must have regretted departing without letting his sweetheart know where he was going. The ghost of the young bride is said to return to the castle whenever newlyweds come to stay there. Whom does she wish to warn? Does she urge young brides not to jump to hasty conclusions? Or does she want to remind the grooms that thoughtless behaviour will only lead to heartache? Also, don't go hunting. It's a barbarous activity. I was going to say sport, but it's not. It's not even sport. It's just barbarism. So I think I have a bit more of this. Slange me bar. Oh, that's lovely. Right, this is quite a long one. Nothing to do with the wedding night either. Oh no, it's not. It's a short one. Right. Brodie Castle. Brodie Castle in Morayshire is now in the care of the National Trust for Scotland. It has been the seat of the Brodie family for many centuries, and in 1889, the family experienced something for which no rational explanation could be found. The castle had been rented out for a while as the Earl of Brodie was abroad in Switzerland. One night in September, the butler at Brodie Castle told some of the other servants that he could hear noises coming from the Earl's study. It sounded as if someone was inside. When the other servants listened, they too could hear noises, moaning sounds, and what sounded like pages being turned or papers being rustled. This was very odd, as the Earl had locked his study before his departure, leaving strict instructions that no one was to enter the room in his absence. Thinking that there might be an intruder, the servants searched for a key to the room, but could find none. The next day, news reached the castle that the Earl of Brodie had died in Switzerland the previous night. It could only be assumed that the Earl's ghost had returned to his study on the night of his death, perhaps with a wish to deal with outstanding business. Either that, or he was back in his room to try and hide his stash of Razzle mags or something. I don't know. I don't know what Razzle is. Razzle dazzle. Right. Let's go to style, because I suddenly realised that is in the wrong font. So let's go down to that's the font we like to use, and there we go. I think beer time. Slange. Not quite bump time. We'll wait until the quarter of the hour has passed. What's this one? Oh, this is 2 pages. Buckholm Tower. Buckholm Tower now stands in ruins. Buckholm Tower, now in ruins, stands close to the border town of Galashiels. 3 centuries ago, it was the home of a terrible and tyrannical man, Laird Pringle. He had a violent temper and a sadistic nature. So abusive was he to his wife and son that they were forced to flee from Buckholm, leaving the laird to live alone, apart from the long-suffering servants on whom he vented his spleen with startling regularity. As well as indulging in his fondness for large quantities of drink, Laird Pringle is said to have spent much of his time hunting. It would seem that blood sports were one way he used to express the cruel side of his nature. One night, however, he was offered the chance to hunt not animals, but humans. Goodness me, what did he become, the Reform MP for the area? The 1680s were years of much bloodshed in Scotland. It was the time of the Covenanters, strong Presbyterians who wanted to worship as they pleased, contrary to the laws passed by the Parliament in England. Forced to meet in secret, they were constantly being hounded by the redcoat forces, driven out of their hiding places and punished most cruelly. Pringle hated the Covenanters, and when he was called upon to assist a band of redcoats intent on raiding a secret Covenanters meeting on the moor near his home, he was delighted to help. He called his ferocious hunting hounds to heel and set off on horseback. The redcoats were too late. Someone must have warned the Covenanters, for their meeting had broken up and they had fled. The hunting expedition was not entirely fruitless, however, for in the course of their search, the troops came upon one old man and his son hiding nearby. The old man had fallen and injured his back and had been unable to escape, so his son had stayed by his side. The pair could not deny that they were Covenanters, for to do so was to deny God. Pringle would have killed the 2 of them then and there, but the officer in charge of the redcoat troops prevented him from doing so. The captives were to face a proper trial, he insisted. Besides, they were of more use alive than dead, since with a little persuasion they might be induced to share some useful information with their captors. Pringle was to take them back to Buckholm Tower and hold them there to await further questioning and subsequent trial. You know how this is going to end. Pringle dragged the 2 men back to Buckholm and threw them into the cellar. The laird's sadism and thirst for blood were, however, stronger than any respect he might have had for the law. Later that night, his servants heard him lurching drunkenly down to the cellar. They listened with great apprehension. Sounds of a scuffle could be heard, then crashes and thumps, roars and screams of agony. Too terrified of their master to take any action, the servants could only listen outside the door and wait. The screaming stopped. The laird stumbled out of the cellar, covered in blood and triumphant. "Swine should be treated as swine," he raged, shoving his men aside as he made his way unsteadily upstairs again. When he reached the entrance hall, he was met by a local woman standing at the door. She was the old man's wife and had come to beg for the release of her husband and son. Laird Pringle dragged her down to the cellar and threw open the door to reveal what was inside. There, suspended on the wall, iron hooks through their jaws, just like 2 slaughtered pigs, were the man and the boy. Pringle watched with obvious relish as the woman subsided into hysterical sobbing. Then, after a few moments, she composed herself and turned to face the laird. She cursed him for what he had done. Just as his hounds had hunted down the Covenanters, his awful deeds would come back like the hounds of hell and hunt him down for eternity. For the first time in a long time, Pringle was really frightened. For the remainder of his life, he was tormented by visions of ghostly hounds, their teeth bared, saliva dripping from their jaws as they moved in for the attack. After his death, people began to hear the strangest sounds at night. The baying of hounds on the hunt and the agonized screams of a man in fear for his life. Although the rest of Buckholm Tower lies in ruins, the cellar remains. Sometimes at night, it is said, you can still hear the noise of dogs and of Laird Pringle's tormented screams. Oh, that's put me off Pringles. I do like a good can of Pringles, but that's put me off a bit. I know, I'm so shallow. Unbelievable. Right. Beer time. Cheers, me beers. And it's bump time as well. Some of the Western Gold honey. Oh, that hits the spot. That's warming me up a bit. We haven't got the fire on for effect tonight. It is bloody freezing tonight. In fact, when Reg and I were out walking today, we both commented on how cold it was. So, yeah. Castle of M-E-Y, is that me or May? Castle of Me, I think. The Castle of Me, Highland home of Her Royal Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, stands in the very far north of Scotland, a few miles from John O'Groats. The castle is haunted by a green lady who appears in a room at the top of the old tower. She is said to be the ghost of a young woman of the Sinclair family. She fell in love with a local lad, a farm worker. A lad such as this, of the humblest origins, a lad such as this, of the humblest of origins, was considered by the girl's father to be a most undesirable suitor for his daughter. He sought to put an end to the relationship and confined his daughter to the tower until she saw sense. It is said that when the girl leaned out of the window to try and catch a glimpse of her sweetheart working in the fields in the distance, she lost her balance, toppled over, and fell to her death from the tower. Grim. Derpy is here. Look, I'll just show you. He was, there he is. Maybe you can see him there. On the pillow. He was on the pillow where I'm sat, but I very carefully slid the pillow along to the end of the chaise, and he's got all that over there now. So, God, it's cold tonight. Cheers. Slange. Cawdor Castle. Cawdor Castle. Cawdor Castle is the haunt of a female ghost, a woman with no hands. The castle stands a few miles from Nairn. It was built in 1370 and became a seat of the Campbell family around 1510 to 11. The ghost does not date from the early times, but from the first half of the 19th century, not long after the head of the family became entitled to call himself Earl of Cawdor. It is thought that the ghost was once the daughter of an Earl of Cawdor who found herself smitten with a young man from a rival family. The Earl of Cawdor discovered the secret romance when he came upon the sweethearts one day in their secret meeting place. The Earl was infuriated by his daughter's treachery. He cut her hands off with his sword so that she might never embrace her lover again. Goodness me, how the landed gentry act. Absolute psychopaths. God, I'm absolutely freezing. I know I've got the fire on, but my hands are cold. Challenge me, bar. Oh, lovely. Oh, we've got some fan mail. Let me just read the fan mail. And I've just realised something, actually. Let me just read the fan mail. Right. We are 22 minutes into the show, and it was remiss of me not to remark on the fact that we have a dead soldier. And Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Love that film. Right. Claypot's Castle. Wasn't Mr. Claypot a character from Rent-A-Ghost? I'm trying to think, actually. Oops, Daisy drops book. I'm sure Claypot was a character from Rent-A-Ghost. Sorry, I had the beer hiccups there for a second. Claypot's Castle, in its present form, was built at the end of the 16th century by John Strachan and his son Gilbert. In 1625, Claypots passed into the hands of Sir William Graham of Claverhouse. The castle stayed in the Graham family for 3 generations, and in 1672, it came into the possession of John Graham of Claverhouse, Viscount Dundee, not Crocodile, known as Bonnie Dundee. John Graham had achieved considerable notoriety for his actions against the Covenanters. Another nickname, coined no doubt by some of those who had held him in particular contempt for what he had done, was Bloody Clavers. Bloody spelt B-L-U-I-D-Y. Many stories were circulated about Claverhouse, and who knows if they had any foundation in reality. It is known that although Claypots was not his main residence, Graham did stay there from time to time. In the area surrounding Claypots, rumours spread about his activities whilst in residence. He was said to have consorted with witches and warlocks, and wild orgies were reputed to have taken place at the castle. Some people believe that it was at Claypots that John Graham of Claverhouse bargained with the devil for mystical powers. These powers were said to have made him, amongst other things, bulletproof. Legend has it that at the Battle of Killiecrankie, where Graham finally met his end, he was killed not by a bullet, but by a silver button from the uniform of an enemy soldier. Years after the death of Bonnie Dundee, it is said that at Halloween, Claypot's Castle was seen to glow with the lights of demonic fires, and that sounds of revelry of the blackest kind could be heard. On the 29th of May every year, it is said that a white lady appears at an upstairs window in Claypot's Castle. The white lady appears to be very distressed and is waving a white handkerchief. This ghost is supposed to be Marion Ogilvy, who was the daughter of the first Lord Airlie. The story goes that she was in love with Cardinal Beaton of St. Andrews. She would wait at the window for him to arrive and wave her handkerchief as a signal to him. On the 29th of May, 1546, which is almost 3:15, the lady waited in vain for Cardinal Beaton lay in St. Andrews. On the 29th of May, 1546, the lady waited in vain, for Cardinal Beaton lay in St. Andrew's Castle, murdered. On the anniversary of his death, every year the White Lady resumes her vigil. This story presents certain difficulties. The castle in its present form and the window from which the White Lady is said to wave would not yet have been built in 1546. Furthermore, Marion Ogilvy did not actually live at Claypot. Her home was in Melbourne Castle. Thirdly, Cardinal Beaton is not known to have had anything to do with Claypots at all. If he ever visited the place, there seems to be no record of him having done so. There we go again. If he ever visited the place, there seems to be no record of him having done so. So how did the story start, and who is the White Lady? I got to look something up, actually. What will it be? 27 minutes. I'm sure Mr. Claypots was a character from Rent-A-Ghost. That's all right. I'm just, there we go. Ba-ba-ba-bum-ba-bum. Nothing like doing a live ghost story and reporting somebody for hate speech. Absolutely right. So, Rent-A-Ghost. Rent-A-Ghost. Here we go. Rent-A-Ghost is a British children's television comedy show originally broadcast by the BBC between the 6th of January 1976 and the 6th of November 1984. So, cast. No, it was Claypole. Michael Staniforth as Timothy Claypole, not Claypot. Michael Staniforth, I get the horrible feeling, died tragically young. Yeah, he did. Staniforth was gay. He died of an AIDS-related illness on the 31st of July, 1987, aged 44. Yes, Mr. Claypole, not Claypots. I knew there was something along those lines. Right. Unmore and then half-time. Comlongan Castle. Comlongan Castle in Dumfriesshire has a green lady. Sorry, there again. Comlongan Castle in Dumfriesshire has a green lady ghost that dates from the late 16th century. She is the tragic figure of Marion Carruthers, who was being coerced into marrying a man she did not love. Having taken refuge at her uncle's home at Comlongan, she finally despaired of the situation and threw herself from the tower of the castle. Half-time. Sorry, Marion, I didn't mean to be that insensitive, but cheers, me beers. Slange. We are going to have some of the Thai chili rice snacks. We do have a fresh thing of wasabi mix, but I think we'll keep that for Friday. So right. So, as I say, today was a 2-reg walk, waiting for Facebook to wake up here. Come on, Facebook, wake up. Yeah, so today was a 2-reg walk. and not knowing what we're going to do, and also the weather was a bit iffy today, we decided to do our stock stomping ground, which is Kongsbury to Yatton, or indeed Yatton to Kongsbury. No, we did Kongsbury to Yatton today. We did the reverse leg. So we usually start from Yatton station and walk to Kongsbury, which is about 2.5 miles. But today we started from Kongsbury and walked down to Yatton. So very good. So here's Reg walking over. Let's try it again. Here's Reg walking over the River Yo, bridge over the River Yo. Not an Oscar-winning film, but there we go. And that's the Strawberry Line path. This is the old railway line from Yatton to Kongsbury and vice versa. So pretty much the entire Strawberry Line is now a walking and cycling path. Absolutely brilliant. It truly is. So that's the view as we're heading towards Yatton. There's myself and Reg with the sun's out. Then we got to Yatton station, and there we are in the Strawberry Line Cafe. I had a big chocolate brownie, and we had a pot of tea. We shared a pot of tea. Reg had a had a bacon bap or something. We were also joined by friend Faye today as well, which was good. And they ganged up on me, so that's pretty normal. So that's the return leg. And this is the new path they've laid. So it's brilliant. It drains nicely. When Reg and I started out from Kongsbury, there was a brief flurry of rain. But by the time we left the side path and we were onto the main path, it went. And there was no more rain for the rest of the day. We walked into a headwind on the way to Yatton, a little bit chilly, even though it was coming from the west, it was a bit on the cold side. But then on the walk back, wind was behind us and the sun was behind us as well. So it was marvelous, perfect walking weather. And that was a view of the River Yo, which I don't think I've ever taken a photograph of that. I mean, it gives you a broad idea of how spectacular the landscape is out there. It's fabulous. It's our favorite walk, I think it's fair to say. And at the end of the day, when I dropped Reg off, of course, I had to do a quick stop at Clevedon seafront and photograph the pier. Tide was coming in, so it was high tide. Oh, I love Clevedon Pier. I j'adore Clevedon Pier. And being a life member of it means I can stroll on there anytime I want. Well, when they're open, obviously. But I can just stroll on there anytime I want and I don't have to pay. Absolutely brilliant. And there's Muggins here, mugging for the camera in front of Clevedon Pier. Absolutely fantastic. So there we go. That was today's walk from Kongsbury to Yatton and back. I clocked up 5 miles and in just over 3 hours of walking, which is just as well because the time limit where we were parked was 3 hours, 15,900 steps, 890 calories, which probably accounts for the cake I had, elevated 48 feet, which is bizarre because it feels like you're walking on the flat, but actually, no, you are kind of going up and down a bit. But anyway, absolutely brilliant walk. Sorry, I got the beer. I've got the beer hiccups again. Oh, that's better. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this time next week, we would have done another walk on the West Somerset Railway. So we live in hope. I think Reg was supposed to have one of his checkups today, but unfortunately the NHS had to cancel his appointment. So I'm just having a look for some of the other oh yeah, this was a cheery reminder of where I was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I had just completed my second operation. So this was a visit from Laura and Tara. I'm tucking into a massive, great chocolate muffin there, and then looking really quite angry that my chocolate muffin eating has been interrupted. But yeah, Laura comments at the time that I'd had a second operation. I had absolutely no idea at that. Oh, let's try it again. Let's bring the image up, shall we? Share screen. It does help. Yeah. So Laura traveled up there with friend Tara, and she notes in her comment that I had just come out of my second operation. At the time, I'd lost count of how many times I went under the knife because I was just so ill, quite frankly. And yeah, I'm looking quite angry there that my muffin eating has been interrupted. But 3 years ago, goodness me. Yeah, I really don't remember much about what on earth happened during that entire experience. The other thing I have been messing around with today, in fact, Reg and I had great fun with this. I'm not a big fan of AI, but it was a program that turns you into an oil painting. So people say to me, "You're no oil painting." Do you know what? I bloody well am. So there's me with my shamak on as an oil painting, with great big amounts of watermarking across my face. I like that one. I'm almost tempted to pay to have that done as an image so I can print that out. Not that I'm vain or anything, but obviously I'm vain. I like that one. Not too keen on that one. I just look like I'm bored and looking into the distance, which actually probably is quite accurate for me. And I'm just seeing if there's any more. We did do a couple of regs today, but perhaps I'll do them on Friday. So we're going to have some more Thai chili rice snacks. Sorry, I'm just screen grabbing something from the book. Freeform. So when we got back tonight, I got on with a bit of work. In fact, I was up at stupid this morning doing work. And then I had to leave to go to see Reg and do the walk. Oh, that's the point. Yeah. In fact, let me just share the pictures because I can bring them into the show. So there we go. Let's bring the images in of Reg, shall we? Here we go. Bear with. We've done those images. Oh yes, and friend David, if you're watching, viewer David, he has got me a new ghost story book. I'll tell you what it's called in a moment. He has got me a new ghost story book, and it is The Ghosts of Biggin Hill. Can't wait for that. Viewer David, if you're watching, that may be the next book that we read when we finish Scottish Ghost. So, God, I'm hungry today. All I had today was that piece of cake. Wasn't Piece of Cake a 1980s Battle of Britain drama by ITV? I do believe it was. And historically, all over the place. Hysterically all over the place. I think it came in for a lot of flack at the time because, if you pardon the pun, because it painted Battle of Britain pilots out to be less than, not honourable, less than immortal, I think is the best way of putting it. Yeah, here we go. So here's some more faffing around with this stupid AI program. So share screen, share screen, share screen. There is Reg. So when I talk about Reg, there he is. There's a AI image of Reg. I think that looks pretty good, actually. Might even get that one, pay to get that one printed and do it so that Reg has that. I think he's worth it, quite frankly. That was the other one of Reg, but it doesn't look like Reg. It's too enigmatic. Then there's one of me. That's not quite me. I look too enigmatic in that one as well, but okay. And apparently that's supposed to be me and friend Jackie. This is what the program does, and that definitely is me, looking like a miserable old git. So yeah, I get that one. Oh no, that was from last week. I think we've jumped an image. Let's just shoot back a bit. Oh, here we go. And that's my friend Judith. Goodness me. She's glammed up a bit for tonight. So no, I don't mean that. I know what I mean. But yeah, there we go. Stupid program, but so yeah, it's been a full-on day. Not too bad. What's on the recipe for tomorrow? Work. Might be a retail trip in the afternoon with friend Faye, whom we saw at the Strawberry Line today, which was good fun. Like I say, her and Reg ganged up on me, so fair enough. So yeah, possibly a retail adventure tomorrow afternoon. Looking forward to that. So, Derpy, shall we crack on? Yeah, Derpy's nodding his feline head there. So let's crack on the part 2 of the show. Courtachy Castle, Courtachy Castle. Courtachy Castle, north of Kirriemuir in Angus, is the family seat of the Ogilvy clan. To this day, the castle is said to be haunted by the ghost of a drummer, but only on certain ominous occasions. Whenever the drumbeat is heard, so they say, a death in the Ogilvy family is imminent. The phantom drummer is said to be the ghost of a drummer at Courtachy who incurred the wrath of his master. There is more than one version of how this came to be so, but one story tells that the drummer failed to give warning when the castle was about to be attacked. As fitting punishment, the negligent drummer was dragged to the top of the tower and flung to his death, along with his drum. The Courtachy drummer has been heard not only at Courtachy but also elsewhere, as, so it is said, when members of the family have been abroad. The sound of the phantom drumming strikes fear into the hearts of the Ogilvy family, for it can mean only one thing: tragedy is about to strike. They're going to cancel the Return of the Saint, so slide me bar. Oh, lovely. Cheers. Oh, it's part deux of tonight's beer adventure. And this is from Home Bargains, Love Lane Brewery, Blackbird, extra stout, 6.7%. Boy, I'm going to sleep tonight. Brewed under the watchful eye of the liver birds, roasted barley, flaked oats, and a selection of dark malts are combined to create a robust dark stout with notes of coffee, rich toffee, and chocolate, finished with a lingering tannic bitterness. A special release from Love Lane. And this is from the Love Lane Brewery, 62 to 64 Bridgewater Street, Baltic Triangle, Liverpool. Oh, God, this is great stuff, though. I think it's only about £1.20 a can. So no, not that I'm cheap or anything, but I am cheap. So it's kind of like Guinnessy, I think is the best way of describing it. Well, it's a bit like my coffee stout that I like. But yeah, honestly, I'm pouring it out at the moment, and it is, oh, it just looks glorious. I think I'll just show you, look. Doesn't that look magnifique? And I think we'll have some more of the Western Gold honey as well. So whilst waiting for the beer to settle down, I'm going to say, I know I constantly worry about my memory because of the old. I watched 2 episodes of Family Guy last night. No memory of ever watching them. Could be that I skipped over them. They were from about season 19. Very funny, but how I didn't see them originally, I don't know. So, right, let's have some more Thai chili snacks. Craigievar Castle. Craigievar Castle. I do apologise. Craigievar Castle is now a National Trust for Scotland property. It stands near Alford in Aberdeenshire and dates from the early 17th century. The castle is home to a number of ghosts, so it is said. The Blue Room in the tower is reputedly haunted by a member of the Gordon clan who fell from the window there. I think we can safely say Gordon's not alive. He was forced to his death at sword point by Red Sir John Forbes, a man of some notoriety. People have heard the footsteps of the unfortunate Gordon climbing the steps to the Blue Room, as if reenacting the moments before his death. One of the other ghosts at Craigievar is said to be very selective in his appearances. It is thought he is the ghost of a musician, a fiddler who fell into the well at the castle and drowned. He is said to appear only to those who bear the name Forbes. Oh, these are all beautifully short, these ones. Well, let's top the old beer up. Oh, football tonight. Let me just check the football scores. I do apologise. I know I should be concentrating on doing the ghost stories, but football. Hearts and Celtic both lead. Manchester City 2-0 up against Crystal Palace, and Stockport 2-0 up against Stevenage. So, okay. So a quick swig of the old Love Lane. Cheers, me beers. Oh, that might be my new favourite beer. I think I might be getting some more of this in future because it is Gert Lush for the second time tonight. Dead Soldier and Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, Dead Soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Definitely has a kind of coffee bitterness to it. I don't like coffee. I don't think it's got coffee in it, actually. Bear with, folks. Oh, goodness me. At 52 minutes and 22 seconds. The burps. Malts, Golden Promise, Crystal, Oats, Wheat, Chocolate, Black, Hops, Admiral, Nose, Chocolate, Rich, Toffee, Palate, Creamy, Coffee, Sweetness, Finished, Tannic Bitter. Just having a quick look. No, it doesn't contain coffee, but do you know what? That I'm definitely getting more of that. That's Gert Lush. Craithes Castle. Craithes Castle, the home of the Burnett family until it became a National Trust for Scotland property, can be found a few miles from the small town of Banchory in the northeast of Scotland. Earliest building work on the castle dates from the middle of the 16th century, with additions having been made in the early part of the 17th century and in the 18th century. In the oldest part of the castle, the double tower, in the oldest part of the castle, the double tower, there is a room known as the Green Lady's Room because of the frequent sightings of such a phenomenon over many years. The identity of the Green Lady is uncertain, although some people believe her to have been one of the family. She has been seen both on her own and with a baby. The existence of such a woman in real time has been borne out by the fact that during restoration work in the building, 2 skeletons were discovered. One of a woman, the other of a baby. It is thought to be most likely that the woman had become pregnant in undesirable circumstances and that someone had taken the decision that it would be most prudent to avoid embarrassment to the family and dispose of both mother and baby. In spite of her remains having been freed from their place of hiding, the Green Lady continues to haunt the tower. Bam, bam, bam. And we definitely need that as a sting. We need a bam, bam, bam. Actually, we'll try it again. In spite of her remains having been freed from their place of hiding, the Green Lady continues to haunt the tower. Copyright-free sound effect, but I'll tell you what, when the show's over, Facebook will hit me with a copyright warning. It's like it's copyright free, for goodness sake. Oh, anyway, slice me bar. Cheers. Oh, that Love Lane beer. Oh, we're definitely getting more of that. Delgaty Castle. Delgaty Castle is a tower house of considerable historical interest, dating from the 16th century. The tower has one ghost, said to be a female with red hair, who has startled people there on several occasions, including a number of troops billeted at the castle during the Second World War. I think we'll have another beer. That's the end of that one. I was just having a thought there that when the show is over, I do need to go outside and reset the trail cam because I'm just having a quick look. Where are we? We've got here the dongle, and in the dongle you can see the memory card for the trail camera. So I've yet to go through all of the trail camera stuff from the last couple of days, but we do need to reset it tonight because we do have quite a few hedgehogs in the garden. Let's have some more Thai chili rice snacks. What do you do on Wednesday night? Well, I tuned in to watch Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra, but as ever, he went off topic, was talking about God knows what. I couldn't wait for it to end, quite frankly. You're not alone. Anyway, Drumlanrig Castle. Drumlanrig Castle is a handsome edifice in Dumfriesshire, which was built in the 17th century for the first Duke of Queensberry, William Douglas. He himself spent very little time at the castle, but his family used the castle as a residence for more than 100 years, after which it became the property of the Dukes of Buccleuch. Buccleuch? Just a small housekeeping here. He himself spent very little time at the castle, but his family used the castle. I don't like the fact that they've used the word castle twice in the same sentence. I would have said he himself spent very little time there, but his family used the castle. Anyway, one ghost that haunts Drumlanrig Castle is that of a headless woman. Not strictly headless, perhaps, for she does have a head, only it is not attached to her shoulders. She carries it about her in her hands. It is thought that perhaps she is the ghost of Lady Anne Douglas, but how the ghost came to be decapitated is a mystery. The other well-known ghost at Drumlanrig is a particularly unusual one. A yellow monkey. This creature, unattractive in appearance and disturbingly large by all accounts, can be seen in one particular room of the castle, which is given the name in very early castle records of the Yellow Monkey or Haunted Room. Nobody has any knowledge of where such a beast might have come from, or if there ever was such an unusual pet at the castle. Nobody has any knowledge of where such a beast might have come from, or if there was ever such an unusual pet at the castle. But over the years, there have been several sightings of the hairy creature. Just gone through the hour mark. Do you know what? We are going to have some wasabi mix rice snacks. If you can open the packet, which you can't at the moment. Oh, for goodness sake, man. Come on. This is the wasabi rice. The wasabi snacks are fighting back here. I think we're going to have to go for a... That's what we're looking for. All these are going to be quite spicy, but... Slange. Cheers, me beers. In the no, we're wrong salutation. Dunstafnage Castle. Dunstafnage Castle near Oban in Argyll dates from the 13th century and is now preserved by Historic Scotland. Various ghostly figures are put in appearances here, including one of several Green Lady ghosts that are said to inhabit various places in Scotland. The Green Lady is thought to be a Glaistig, and her appearances, always associated with poltergeist activity around the castle, are thought to be omens of notable occurrences, either good or bad. They're beer burps again. Slange. Oh, lovely. Duntroon Castle. Duntroon Castle in Argyll stands in a spectacular setting overlooking Loch Crinan. In the 17th century, it was the seat of the Campbell clan. Close to the beginning of the century, an Irishman, Col Coitac, brought his troops over to Scotland with the intent of waging war upon the Campbells, whom he hated. He preferred Hines, I think. Unwilling to risk attacking Duntroon without prior knowledge of its defences or of the number of enemy soldiers he would have to face, he sent his piper ahead to try to gain the confidence of the Campbells and discover the information that was required. Pipers were privileged in Highland society and could be guaranteed hospitality wherever they went in return for a few good tunes. Cole's plan was therefore both devious and cunning. The piper duly approached the castle and was admitted by the Campbells, but their suspicions were soon aroused. The piper seemed unduly curious about the place and asked too many questions. It would be wrong to kill him, for they had no proof that he was up to no good. Besides, they had offered him their hospitality. By way of compromise, they locked him in one of the tower rooms to prevent him from escaping while they decided what to do. Not far from the castle, Cole's troops remained in hiding, waiting for the piper to return with the information that would help them to victory. But time passed, and still the piper did not return. His men grew restive, and at length Cole lost patience. He decided to advance upon the castle regardless. The piper, meanwhile, up in his tower room, was only too well aware of the dangers of his master. The piper, meanwhile, up in his tower room, was only too well aware of the dangers his master would be facing. The Campbell troops outnumbered Cole's forces, and Duntroon was strong and well defended. He had to give warning to Cole somehow. Very bravely, he took up his pipes and began to play an alarm. Cole's troops retreated at once, but the piper had signed his own death warrant. The Campbells heard the sounds of his pipes and realized what he was up to. They stormed up to the tower room and dragged the poor musician out. His fingers were cut from his hands, and he was left to bleed to death. The piper's remains were interred elsewhere in the castle. Years later, it is said, the fingerless skeleton was discovered and given a religious burial. in spite of the fact that the piper's body had been despite the fact that the piper's body has been put properly to rest, his spirit will not let Duntroon forget the cruelty of the Campbells. The piper's ghostly playing can still be heard in the tower room, and strange occurrences similar to the activities of a poltergeist have been reported. They too are thought to be attributable to the spirit of Cole's brave piper. Oh God, another long one, which is what she said. Let's have some more wasabi snack mix. I think this might be the last deux for tonight, and then that'll be it. So cheers, me beers. Slange me var in the magnificent United Federation of Planet Shot Glass, courtesy of friends Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Your good health. Oh. Duntulm Castle. Duntulm Castle in the north of the island of Skye now stands in ruins, but its colourful history assures it of the presence of more than one ghost. One of the ghosts is said to have been the reason why the castle ceased to be used for habitation in the early 18th century. The ghost is that of Hugh Eusebine Gillespie, cleric, who was the cousin of Donald Gorm Moore, chief of the MacDonalds of Sleat. Donald Gorm Moore was an unpopular and brutal chief and had his fair share of enemies. Hugh was perhaps the most deadly of these enemies and had long plotted to kill Donald Gorm Moore. One such plot being made known to... That doesn't read right. Hugh was perhaps the most deadly of these enemies and had long plotted to kill Donald Gorm Moore. One such plot being made known to Donald Gorm Moore. There are different versions of the story, so it is not clear exactly how this happened. But Donald, having been informed of his cousin's treachery, set about getting his revenge. He laid siege to Hugh's castle, hoping to starve him out. Hugh escaped disguised as a woman, but he was soon captured by Donald Gorm Moore's men and taken to Duntulm. There he was locked up. One version of the story tells that he was bricked up in a dungeon, but the confinement of his enemy was not enough to satisfy Donald Gorm Moore's appetite for revenge. He saw to it that Hugh suffered cruelly for his treachery. Hugh's only means of survival in the dungeon were meagre rations of salt meat and salt fish. No water was given to him. Needless to say, he died a slow and painful death from dehydration. His screams were said to haunt the castle continuously after his death, causing great torment to all within. Another ghost that haunts Duntulm was that of Margaret, a ward of the previous chief, Donald Gorm. After Donald Gorm's death, she was placed, according to his dying wishes, in the care of Donald Gorm Moore until she came of age. When she came of age, she was to marry Donald Gorm Moore or enter a convent. According to one source, Margaret was hopelessly in love with Hugh and devastated by his cruel fate at the hands of Donald Gorm Moore. According to another source, Margaret was cruelly rejected by Donald Gorm Moore, principally because she had only one eye. For whatever reasons, Margaret's life was an unhappy one. She did not marry Donald Gorm Moore and eventually entered the convent, but she died soon afterwards. Her ghost returned to Duntulm and could be heard weeping around the castle for many years after her death. Donald Gorm Moore himself was also said to haunt Duntulm in the company of two drunken friends. God, did they do ghost stories? Let's find out. The three ghostly figures proved to be quite a trial for Donald Gorm Moore's successor, his nephew. I've got this name. The three ghostly figures proved to be quite a trial for Donald Gorm Moore's successor, his nephew, Donald Gorm Moore, Og. Two more ghosts haunted the castle, those of a tiny heir and his nursemaid. Oh, the bit about still apologise. It is said that the baby fell from the nurse's arms out of a window high in the castle and onto the rocks below, where he died. The baby's father, enraged with pain and grief, ordered that the nurse be tied up and set adrift in a leaking boat. The cries of the baby and his nurse can still be heard in the ruins of the castle and on the rocks where the poor infant met his death. Last for tonight. Oh my goodness me. Oh, we've got some more fan mail here. Let's just read the fan mail. Right, last for tonight, Dunvegan Castle. So let's have a beer. And a bump. Dunvegan Castle. Dunvegan Castle on the Isle of Skye is famous not for haunting as such, but for the precious fairy flag which is kept in the castle, an extremely old, discoloured and worn piece of material. It hardly resembles a flag at all, but is said to possess remarkable supernatural power. Dunvegan is the seat of the MacLeod clan, and their attachment to the fairy Dunvegan is the seat of the MacLeod clan, and their attachment to the fairy flag stems from the ancient belief that if the MacLeod family is ever in dire peril, the flag, if unfurled, will protect them from harm. This superstition has been given weight by the fact that on two separate occasions in history, the flag was unfurled in battle, and the MacLeod clan and their soldiers were able to overcome their enemies in spite of what had seemed to be insurmountable odds. How the flag came into the possession of the family is a matter of some debate, but one story tells of a party in the castle many years ago. The nursemaid, who was left in charge of the baby of the family, left the child for a few moments to watch the revelries, and while she was gone, the child kicked off its covers. When the nurse returned, she found that the child had been covered up by the fairies with the fairy flag. When she picked up the child in its new silken cover, fairy voices were heard telling the MacLeod family that if ever the flag was unfurled in battle, the enemy would see twice as many MacLeod clansmen as were actually facing them. The flag could only be used 3 times, for whoever tried to use it a 4th time would disappear along with the flag. The fairy flag has been used twice, and no one would want to have. The fairy flag has been used twice, and no one would want to have used it. There we go. The fairy flag has been used twice, and no one would want to have to use it a 3rd and final time. But its very presence in Dunvegan is considered by many to be some sort of lucky talisman in itself. And that's where we are going to leave things tonight. We're going to have some more wasabi snack mix. Delicious. Deliciouser. There we go. We stacked it up. Goodness me, boys and germs. Goodness me, boils and germs, I should have said. That's it for tonight. We are at 1 hour and 20 minutes. Well, just short of 1 hour and 20 minutes. So, fingers crossed, we'll be back for Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra on a Friday. So until then, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why not? What else are you going to do on a Wednesday evening in the middle of May? Are we in the middle of May, Derp? We are. We're May the 13th. So yeah, we're pretty much the middle of May. I know we're in the middle of May because my BBC Gardener's World magazine has turned up. So anyway, what else are we going to do in the middle of May than watch a confused man from Dudley drink ghost stories and read drink ghost stories and read alcohol? I'll get it right, you know. Anyway, until the next time, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why not? Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and please, go on, nightmares. Good night.